Welcome back to the Investor Blueprint. How you doing, Reggie?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I tell you what, man, it's heating up outside. We got late July, early August here.
Yeah.
And, we're just cruising right along here. This one's going to be a little bit different.
It is.
We're gonna get some framework done on this episode, so I'm excited to dive into that. You know, the past episodes we've really gotten into the numbers. We brought some, we've had a couple experts on and everything. So definitely make sure you go back and listen to those. If this is the first time, checking us out, really appreciate you checking this out. Make sure you check us out on all the socials and all that stuff. And so today's the day. Like you said, we've been going over the tax traps, and we've been going over underwrite, all of that stuff. Well, today we're just going to sit and talk about what we keep talking about, the 10 commandments, right? Yeah.
Like, this is what we believe you should use in every single deal, in looking at a deal, to make sure follow these 10 commandments. And you're not going to get bit. You're not going to get stuck. Hopefully, you're not going to get stuck with an absolute problem. A problem.
I mean, they're not foolproof. Now,
they're
these
not.
are not the
no,
10.
They're not.
The only 10 things you need to do.
Correct.
But these will start you off on the right path, right?
Yes.
This will help you from where you are. Again, I like to reiterate this, that, the whole point of this podcast is to help the common person. How can they go from where they are right now, that they have no working knowledge? They've heard of investment real estate. They've seen it. They've heard, they know people who have done it, but they really don't know, what do I need to do? And so today we're going to go through the 10 commandments of investment real estate.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
So commandment 1, I really like what we came up with. You've got to run the numbers before you fall in love.
Yep.
You can't look at the house and go, oh my God, this is great, and get emotional with this building, with this home, before you look at the numbers.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the big thing, is when we get into a lot of residential sales, right? Everybody falls in love with the house. Granted, you fall in love with the house, then you do an inspection, and oh my gosh, it's bad. But you fall in love with the house. You're going to fall in love with some of these multifamily, these investment properties, and then you're going to run the numbers, and
ain't going to work.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not.
And that's a big thing too, is like, and you just said it, the mindset of a buyer for a primary home it should be different than an investor.
Correct.
And we talk about it too, about the emotion of buying a house, that first house, and where your kids are going to be, and having those barbecues, in the summertime, or the pool parties, or having the guys over and watching the big game on Saturday in the fall, or whatever it might be, right?
Right.
As an investor, you've got to look at it from a black and white standpoint. This is an investment. That is it.
Period.
This is a non-emotional, choice. And so you've got to look at your cash on cash return, the cap rate, how does it work? What is the cash flow of the property? And almost having a spreadsheet before the showing, right? Because the last thing, especially with gas the way it is right now, you don't want to drive 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or whatever it is to go see property if the math isn't mathing off the rip. Like,
correct.
You have got to know that before you hop in your car with your agent or whatever it may be and head out and check out that property.
Well, and this is where this team comes into play, right? You as the client, you have the realtor that's doing his job, running the numbers, getting that information over to the lender to run the numbers as well, to make sure, okay, this is the initial price that they're asking. Where are we at before we even go look at the house? And this is, they're going to see it on the MLS or on Zillow. They're going to get to see the pictures, and there's going to be some emotion there. Oh my gosh, look at this property.
Yeah.
But before we go look, we're going to pull the numbers. We're going to make sure, before me as an agent, before we go show that house, I'm already getting as much information I can from that realtor, rent rolls, whatever information he can give me before we show up.
Absolutely. And so the numbers really that I would focus on is number one, what is the purchase price? What are comparables? Is that a fair price? What is the rent roll? What are the rents inside of that property? What does that look like? What is my monthly payment going to be? As far as a mortgage goes, we're assuming you're going to have a mortgage on this. And what is my cash to close, right? And all of those numbers you need to know prior to. Now, obviously, there's a lot more details you need to dive into, but before you stop on property, the number one rule is thou shalt know the numbers before you fall in love.
Yes.
Which brings us to number two, is we're going to take a conservative approach to this, which is thou shalt use the 75% rule to allow for the unexpected. Now, what do we mean by that, Charlie?
Well, we mean if you're taking the rent that you have come in and you spend that money and you're not doing this 75% rule and the hot water tank goes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not a contractor, that hot water tank is costing you $2,000. If the furnace goes, if you get a leak in the roof, who's going to pay for that?
Mm-hmm.
So that 75% rule, you're holding money back to cover all of this stuff that you don't know what you're going to deal with. Yeah. Now, over time, are you able to look at this, and as you get more and more money into the account for that particular home, are you able to say, okay, maybe I can pull a little bit out of it because I've replaced the furnace, or I've replaced the hot water tanks, or I've handled the roof.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have that money sitting, waiting just in case a problem happens. Otherwise, you're having to take credit cards out. Yeah. You're gonna get yourself into a true issue of, I don't have any money to replace that hot water tank, and that person's paying rent. They need a hot water tank. Mm-hmm. I'm dealing with a situation with a friend of mine that the refrigerator went bad in a house that they're renting.
Oh, shoot.
The people don't have the money to buy a new fridge. So they delivered to them one of the tiny little mini fridges until they have the money to buy the fridge. I mean, here's an issue.
Yeah,
there's a major issue there.
So when like how the math works on the 75%, because most of the time, if you're renting a house, mm-hmm. right? If you have a single family or a duplex or whatever, and that is bringing in $2,000, and you're thinking, hey, my mortgage is only $1,800. I'm making $200 profit, right? Because the outgo is $1,800, but the income is $2,000.
Right.
Well, what we're saying is take your rent times 0.75, so take 75% of that, and use that as your rental income.
Correct.
Right? And then look at that versus the mortgage. Now, that's obviously a very conservative approach. But again, like you're talking about, you need to set that money aside for capital expenditures, right?
Absolutely.
For vacancy.
Yes.
Like you've talked about.
I mean, at any point, I always say if a tenant moves out of the house, it's $3,000 to $4,000. Mm-hmm. By the time you get in there, if they leave it full of garbage, you may have their security deposit. Hopefully you have their security deposit, but hopefully they didn't trash the inside of it. Now you have to pay a renter or pay a contractor to come in, paint, carpet, fix damaged stuff. And how long is that going to take? Are you going to be out rent for a month?
Yeah.
I mean, this is where you need to have money put aside for those situations. Mm-hmm. So you're not going, I can't even pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
No, I don't have anybody in there, and they've trashed the apartment.
A mortgage company doesn't care that you don't have renters in there, or
right.
You're having an eviction problem, or you're, the person renting it lost their job and now whatever. Nope, that money is due and they want it. Yep. So you've got to account for that. What do we have for number 3?
We have pretty much getting into still with the 75% rule is making sure that you keep those reserves.
Yes. For
anything and everything that's going to come up. You're going to have taxes going up.
Yep.
You're going to have maybe the guy that cuts the lawns raises what he's doing now the following year. Maybe you need to get a new driveway. Maybe as we're looking at this one multifamily in Livingston County, the guy before he sold it is selling it. He had to redo the entire sewer line from the house to the main. That wasn't cheap. Mm-mm. And because he had to do that, he now has to redo the driveway. Mm-hmm. These are these reserves that we need you. Yes, the 75% rule. Let's keep it. Let's keep taking that and putting that away. But you need to hold those reserves.
Yes.
You really need to hold those just in case things come up. I mean, a furnace and hot water, or a furnace and air, if that goes in one of your units, that's $5,000 to $7,000.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. If you don't have any reserves, now what are you doing?
Wow, you're pulling out the credit card. You're having to dip into savings, long-term savings, or of personal funds,
right,
just to cover that. So I would say at least, and it depends. There's a lot of factors that go into this, right? We're kind of painting this with a broad stroke, but it depends on what is the age of the roof, what is the age of the HVAC, how is the plumbing, how is the electrical, how are the bones of the house, to determine, do I need three months? Do I need 6 months of reserves? And also, what is your personal cash position? If you personally are scraping by and almost paycheck to paycheck, or, in that realm, you need to have some heavier, you need to carry a heftier balance.
Absolutely.
Month to month,
yes,
in the bank accounts for all of that.
And it just continues to be about looking at the money that comes in, yep, and you don't get to say, wow, I'm bringing in $4,000 a month and my mortgage and insurance and interest is only, I don't know, $2,700. Wow, that's $1,300. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yep.
You need to put that in there because renter isn't there. They move out. Mm-hmm. Furnace, it could be bad really quick.
Yep. And so the next one that we're going to go through ties in directly with that as well, which is thou shalt always have a thorough inspection.
I continue to say it and say it and say it. You have to have an inspection.
Yes.
I understand, and I have buyers that are contractors. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when it's a very competitive market, you might lose a property to someone that says, I'm putting money down, this is what I'm paying, and I don't care about the inspection. Mm-hmm. If you're small time and you're not a contractor, you walk into that situation. This goes to what I talked to you about years ago when I bought the one property in East Point, no inspection. And within a month of the people moving in, I had to pay for the sewer line. Mm-hmm. The connection was on the other side of the street, $10,000.
Yeah.
I hadn't even gotten, I've got the first month's rent, and now I have to come up with $10,000. Yeah. You have to do it. You have to have that done. You better have some reserves.
Yeah, absolutely. And you better know what you're getting yourself into.
And
right?
Yes.
I mean, from the top of the roof to the bottom of the basement and everything in between.
Absolutely. And these inspectors, these good inspectors, you need to do your homework. You need to check and find a good inspector that knows what they're doing. Because, Reggie, there's some inspectors out there that are not great. Mm-hmm. And you need to do your due diligence. Hopefully your realtor and your lender that you're working with has a good inspector that's going to be able to come in and dig and make sure that the property is what you're willing to take on.
Yeah, and
issues.
We'll even take it a step further because, okay, now we found issues. So the common practice is to say, okay, well, I'll just buy it for less now. And it's like, okay, that could work. So if you're going to knock $10,000 off the price because you're going to get seller concessions, is it better to take that $10,000 off the price, or is it better to take $10,000 in seller concessions, meaning that you bring less money to closing? That $10,000 is applied to closing costs.
Absolutely,
and that's something that you need to personally think about. What is that difference? Because I'm telling you right now, $10,000 over the course of a 30-year mortgage doesn't really move the needle like you think it would,
Right.
in comparison to $10,000 in cash. I
That
mean, it's
you
going to be
know,
about
okay,
$140 a month.
The inspector said that the furnace is on its last leg. So the seller said, okay, we'll give you 10,000 in concessions instead of 10,000 off. If you take the 10,000 off, you're still having to come up with $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 for that furnace.
Yeah.
Where the concessions, absolutely, you now have money in your hand. And this is where you talk with the realtor and you're talking with the lender, and the lender is going to explain this to you, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's look at the mortgage payment. This is what the payment would be if we took 10,000 off the price of the house.
Yeah.
Over here's 10,000 in concessions.
Yeah.
What is it going to do?
I said 140. I meant 70. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
I misspoke there. So you're talking about a $10,000 savings of cash that you don't have to pay at closing.
Correct.
Versus $140 a month difference, or excuse me, $70 a month difference.
Correct.
I mean, a lot of people are going to say 70. Do I want to save $70 a month or save 10,000 at closing? But some people are cash heavy.
Correct.
And they're like, hey, you know what? I'm good with that. I'd rather have the lower payment.
Correct.
And that's cool too. But
Yeah.
knowing knowing the different options there. All right, number 5. What you got for number 5? Commandment number 5.
Thou shalt not skip the title search,
Yeah.
Reggie. I know. I tell you what, going back to when Carol was here, and I agree with all of this, and we've talked about it, but I tell you what, you soaked in that conversation with Carol so much, and it was powerful. So why don't you tell me with this commandment how important this is?
Yeah, and I think that was episode 4, if I'm not mistaken. So go back and watch it. Episode 4, we had Carol from Liberty Title, and there's so many things on a title search. Whether you're talking about the liens, the different judgments, how people have held title, who actually owns the property, all of those things. Are they still alive?
Right.
Is it in a trust? Is it in this or that? So there's so many things that you need to know before you start moving forward with, buying that property, or at least in the early stages of your due diligence.
Right.
And because all of that's going to make a difference on when can you close. Because if it's in a trust, and again, go back and listen to the episode if you haven't, because we have examples of this. If it's in a trust and those people aren't alive anymore and we can't get a hold of the executors of that trust, how, or it's in probate or whatever the issues made, there's liens on the property that they didn't know about. I mean, there's so many issues.
Property line issues.
Mm-hmm. So just be careful with that, and always get pre-title, see what's going on with it, talk with the listing agent, and again, make sure that you are talking to your realtor, you've got a good title person, and they can help guide you through all of that. And then I guess kind of a side note with that, and then we didn't really have it on this, but know how to hold title, right?
Correct.
So if you're going into an LLC, and I don't think it's on the further ones, if you're going to be purchasing it in an LLC, or if you have a joint venture with someone, how are you going to hold title with each other? So if one passes or one party isn't involved anymore, what happens to the other half of property, right? And so you've got to be careful.
And you have to be careful, and you have to make those decisions, those smart decisions. I mean, you and I were just talking about, I know about a situation right now where two partners went in to buy a home, a multifamily.
Yeah.
One of the partners is like, I want to sell. And the other partner's like, well, I want to sell, but I want to do a 1031 exchange. Well, I don't want to do a 1031 exchange. I just want the money because I want to take it. So guess what? We don't have an option here. They're not going to let me do, or that person do it. Nope. So keep that in mind as well regarding this.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
All of this.
Good point.
Before we get into Commandment 6, we are going to pause for our sponsors.
We're going to take a quick pause for our sponsor, Valor Collective. For years, your life has been defined by the badge, the uniform, and the heavy lifting that happens beyond the four walls. You've stood the watch and held the line. But what happens when the shift is finally over? Valor Collective presents From the Badge to the Beach. They've built a nationwide network of elite agents who specialize in helping the heroes community find their version of paradise. Whether it's a coastal retreat, a mountain sanctuary, or just a quiet piece of land far from the sirens and the stress, they are the bridge to your next chapter. They understand that after a career of service, you aren't just looking for a house, you're looking for the peace you've earned. When you're ready to transition from the front lines to the shoreline, there is only one place to go, OneRealMove.com. No matter where you're looking to plant your flag, Valor Collective has the recon and the reach to get you there. OneRealMove.com. From the badge to the beach, because you've protected our world. Now it's time to enjoy yours.
All right, we're getting back into it. Commandment number 6. Thou shalt screen every tenant like your cash flow depends on it. I mean,
Because it does.
it absolutely does. As soon as I remember a long time ago, where a person came, they had several kids, they were really pushing the envelope, and they
pulled the heartstrings.
They pulled it. Within 2 months, they weren't paying rent. There were 18 police calls to the house, and they trashed the calls. I ran their credit. I knew it was bad. Everything was horrible.
Yep.
Nope.
Listen, we're all about charity.
Yes.
Right? We're all about doing good things for people in tough spots.
Yes.
This show is not, we don't think that you're getting in business to run a charity house.
Correct. You're not.
You're a for-profit organization.
Yes.
And you need to run it as such.
And especially you're a smaller, we're talking to people that if you don't get rent that month, you could lose. You're really right at the verge of, if you don't pay the mortgage, now what?
Yeah.
And if you put somebody in there without doing the due diligence, having the credit report, looking at rent history, doing all of the things that you need to do to make sure that this is going to be a good tenant.
Yeah.
If you find out that this tenant has been kicked out of 3 different places because he didn't pay the rent, guess what he's going to do with you?
But I can change him, Charlie. I
No,
can change him.
no, you can't. Stop. That's the 2 hands. Stop. No, you can't. You can't change it. So
Absolutely.
do the due diligence
Yep.
with every single one of these tenants and make sure that you have proper leases to protect you and your tenant.
Absolutely. And, it's just like with commandment number 1, you're not going to buy with emotion, and we're not going to rent with emotion either. Right?
Correct.
So, and in this, again, we love charity. We love helping people who need. We've both been in down situations,
Absolutely.
down and out situations where it's like, dude, I need some help right now. And you got to turn to friends, you got to turn to family, you got to turn to different organizations. And there are plenty of organizations out there to help for those who need it. I just see that this podcast is for people that are like, hey, we need to be for profit and everything else. So let's move this forward. So the big things you want to look at, like you've mentioned, is credit. Because as a mortgage lender, we do the same thing.
Absolutely.
We're going to look at your credit because that's going to show us what is your history with debt? How
Correct.
do you work with debt?
Correct.
You have it, you use it, and do you pay it back? Number 2, we're going to look at your cash flow, right?
Yes.
Now, with this, we're going to look at your income to see, okay, is there enough room in here in the budget for 2 or 3x income over the rent? So
Correct.
if your rent is $2,000, you need to be making at least $6,000 as a renter.
Correct.
Right? To allow enough room in your monthly budget. Now, obviously, so we've got the credit, we've got the rent or the income verification, and then we need to know the background of what is the history been, whether
Correct.
it's other rents, references, and also do you have enough money in the bank for a deposit and everything else. So those are the key things that you really need to look at when you're vetting a possible tenant.
Well, and I will tell you in this situation, like I have people that I know in the past that have not spent the money to do that.
Yeah.
They didn't charge the application fee. They didn't go and look out for themselves to do the background check, to do the credit screening. And within 3 to 6 months, now you don't have rent. So that $120 to $200 that you maybe would have spent to protect yourself.
Now you're out $3,000 or $4,000.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know,
yes.
Plus. All right. Number 7, thou shalt treat it like a business, not a hobby. Obviously, the difference between a business and a hobby, you're going to have systems, you're going to have documentations, we're going to have separate bank accounts, we're going to have an LLC in place, we're going to have all of our paperwork lined up. So from property 1, we are ready to go for tracking expenses for tax purposes. You know, how are we going to collect rent? You know, all the different documentation that we need to make sure that this is a legitimate business and there's no commingling of funds or, oh yeah, it's in a paper somewhere, the lease agreement, I scratched it on a bar napkin somewhere here.
Right.
No, that's not going to hold up.
No.
But if you have everything together and your lease is good and it's reviewed by an attorney and everything's good there and you're properly set up with a bank account and you're properly set up with an LLC or an S corp or however you want to do that, that now you are ready for business. Everything's organized and in place, and now you can start rolling.
Well, and this goes into play at the end of the year too, right? If you start the systems now, when you get ready to go to your tax guy at the end of the year, you're not forgetting things. Your tax guy is able to look and say, okay, this is the cost. This is what I can do with what you created. Instead of, I remember when I first started, I would find Home Depot receipts from a year that it didn't go into the cost, that I just threw them somewhere. No.
In the console of the car.
Yes. And so you need to keep track of all of this stuff. It's huge.
Absolutely.
So,
all right. Number 8.
Thou shalt not go at it alone. So this is where I believe what we want to bring up with this is you're not going in if you had going in multiple doors, right? Let's start, if we can get you in, and whatever you start getting into, make sure you have your team with you.
Yeah.
Right? Make sure that you have a realtor that you're talking to and a lender that you're talking to. And hopefully that lender and that realtor has inspectors, they have contractors that can work with you and look at these properties to make sure, yes, this is the right property for you.
Yeah. Because if you look at it, you're trying to assemble your team.
Yes.
Right? Now, obviously, a realtor, a lender, an insurance agent, a title rep, a CPA, a contractor, you know, all of those guys, girls that can be there for you. So you're not, you know, going to Facebook saying, hey, does anybody know a good contractor in, you know, Albuquerque or wherever? Like,
correct.
You know, because again, you're putting your hard-earned money on the line here.
Absolutely.
And, you know, if those closing costs are going to be $50,000 or $70,000 or $100,000, like, you want to make sure, like, hey, the house is in good shape, we're good, or at least you know what you're getting yourself into and not getting blindsided, like we've talked about a $15,000 new roof or, you know, a sewer hookup that is, you have to have it done. You can't not have that.
Correct.
Or any of those major other issues.
Well, and I really believe that walking into this, and hopefully your realtor and your lender has talked to you, and these are the things, once you get this property, like, you have to make sure that you have the plumber on call. You have to make sure to have the heating and cooling guy on call that you know you're going to go with if something goes down. Because if you don't, and the tenant calls and says in February, hey, the heat's out.
Yeah.
Now what? I got to go and Google and find out the 5 best heating and cooling guys, and hopefully, because I don't have a relationship with them, they're not going to be the first one on your list. So having a relationship, communicating with them, and one of the things that I'll tell you, Reggie, there are some heating and cooling companies out here and plumbing companies out here that they're running packages.
Yeah.
Where if you pay a yearly fee, and it's not a lot, it's maybe $100. It's not a high fee, but you're paying this. So now when you call them, hey, I'm part of this membership.
Yeah.
So when I need something,
They're there.
they're there.
Yeah.
Instead of you're calling somebody and you're last on the list and you have a tenant that doesn't have heat. So now you don't have heat. You're worrying about pipes breaking. The heat isn't there for 3 days. Now you have to put the tenant in a hotel.
And you're at the mercy of the HVAC
Yes.
company, the plumbing company.
Yes.
So you're just praying that there's not a comma in that bill. Whereas if you have a relationship with someone, you can work with them. They know you. You can know a little bit more, at least a comfort of knowing what to expect.
And the other thing that I just talking about this in relationship here, that's so important also is when we talk about, the title company and me and you and the contractors, how important is it for these clients to have a lender that is contacting them maybe a year or two down the road and say, hey, Reggie, rates look good right now.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do something here.
Yeah.
That's so valuable to have. And knowing that you have the right person by your side is huge.
Yeah. Well, and absolutely. And I mean, because again, it's all about the numbers. And if you can save $250 a month, that's an extra, $3,000 a year back into your pocket. That's not going to interest of, a lender or a servicer out there. So definitely want to assemble your team, which brings us to number 9. Thou shalt understand thy exit before thy entereth. We're getting all Shakespearean here. So what do we mean by this? So basically, begin with the end in mind, right? That I think that's a Jim Collins book or something. So know what your exit strategy is before you even get into the deal. So are you going to go at it and look at a 1031 exchange? Are you going to buy and hold? Is this going to be a fix and flip? Are you doing short-term rentals here? Are you doing long-term rentals here? When do you plan to sell? Are you going to pass it down to your kids? All of these different options. Now, why would that make a difference? Because all of those are going to affect the numbers of the property.
Absolutely.
Right? If I'm doing a fix and flip, I don't care about the rent roll.
You don't.
I just want to know, where's it at right now? What's the neighborhood looking like? How much is it going to cost me to get it fixed up to snuff? And what is the new, proposed appraisal amount at that point?
Correct.
How much money can I make?
Right.
Is this going to be a short-term rental? Is this going to be a long-term rental? All of those, maybe with short-term rentals, you're probably going to hold a little bit more cash on hand because those are, faster turn and burns, and you can't go, if you're in off season or weather is going to play effect in short-term rentals and everything else. And what is the economy around there? All of that is going to play, as opposed to a long-term rental. I don't care what the weather's really doing. Somebody needs to live, rent the house out.
Correct.
So all of those, and how you're going to hold title and how you're going to put it in, have all of that laid out. So you're not, oh man, I should have put it in a trust from the beginning, or, oh man, I didn't look at numbers with a long-term rental. I looked at it from a short-term rental. So they looked really good at a short-term rental because the number was really high because it's a short-term rental. But now I'm doing long-term rental, and now it's not cash flowing like I thought it would.
And this, when we talk about this is where all of the commandments come into play, because that short-term rental, you're expecting this money to come in only certain times of the year, and then you get a tenant in there that trashes the place. Now it takes you a month. This was during peak. Now you're losing all of this big money. I mean, this is where you really have to think about when you're getting ready to make these purchases. All of these things you're going to be thinking about.
Yeah.
All of it.
So you just, again, enter this with the end in mind. Now, obviously, by the time you buy it and the time you eventually sell it or pass it down or pass on or whatever, things change, right? Your perspective changes. Maybe a job transfers got you moving out and you don't want to live in California and have a rental in Michigan or,
Right.
Vice versa or whatever. Or you go through a divorce and, now you've got to sell it and you weren't expecting that. Like, life happens, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But at least have a game plan going into it so you can set yourself up for success from the beginning and not, upset at yourself because you didn't see or you didn't, stop to think about what you truly want out of this before you even start it.
Right.
Yeah.
The last commandment.
Number 10.
Wow. Thou shalt protect the asset.
Yes.
Insurance and entity structure.
Yep.
Making sure that, first of all, that this property is insured. You're really not going to have an option, especially if you buy and you get a mortgage.
Yeah.
The lenders are going to make sure that you have this insured properly. If you pay cash, you should still make sure that it's insured properly, right? One of the things that I also really push is to have an umbrella policy. That somebody walking down the sidewalk in front of your house and they slip and fall, at least you have some extra coverage there with an umbrella policy. Making sure, we've talked about it, making sure your LLC is in place, making sure that everything is connected with the LLC, making sure that we had a situation where a house, this was in the past, a house was insured in my mother-in-law bought the house. We got the house from my mother-in-law. This was years ago. The insurance company, we called the insurance company. They did not change the name from my ex's mom to our LLC. The tenant walked away from the house in the winter, water damage everywhere. When we went to file the claim, the insurance company said, whoa, yes, you've been paying on it for the last 5 years, but that's still under this person's name, not under your LLC, not covered. $100,000 loss. So making sure that all of these things are in order to protect yourself.
Yeah, because the last thing you want is to work really hard, to script, save, do your due diligence and get the inspectors out there and save your money and put this into a house and then, have that parlay into another house because now you've got a lot of cash flow happening and all that. Now you have 2 or 3 rentals and things are going well. Now you have an issue at one of the rental houses or whatever, and it's pretty catastrophic. And now that family is suing you for your entire net worth and everything else because you didn't take the time to set up silos for these houses. So what happens at one house can't bleed over to the next house or the following house or the other apartment building or your personal house or your personal finances and everything else.
Correct.
You don't want to have one dumb mistake or whoopsies, lead to years and years and years of hard work just down the drain.
Right.
And that's what insurance is there for.
Yes.
Everybody hates paying the premiums, man. It's
I've had multiple situations where that premium paid the price.
Yeah.
The dryer, this was one of the things where I had allowed people to bring in used appliances into the home. If I didn't have a washer and dryer, they can bring a used appliance into the home. Here's the problem with those used appliances. Are there going to be issues with them? We had a situation where the gas dryer, the electric starter and the gas dryer started on fire. Looking at the insurance, just bringing this in, we were covered, but we didn't realize that the tenant did not fully pay for her tenant rental insurance. None of her stuff inside was covered. We were covered. None of her stuff wasn't covered. Now, being that it was around Christmas time, we took care of her, but that's not going to happen all the time. It's making sure you have insurance, making sure that your tenants have their rental insurance to cover things inside the home. All of these things are protections that you need to make sure is happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also, obviously, location specific. If you're down in Florida, do you have the proper insurance, hurricane insurance or wind or, flood coverage or anything like that? You want to make sure, again, you are in a good spot, earthquake insurance and everything else. You're in a good spot. Your asset is protected, and you're going to be able to sleep a lot better at night knowing some of that. So those are the 10 commandments.
Yes.
That again, is this going to cover everything? No, but it's going to cover a lot. And these commandments, you can take them to the bank, because these are very conservative. They're very like, hey, take care of yourself, protect your asset, and be able to, have some peace and stability long term.
I mean, as we talked about all of this, they're all commingled, right?
Yeah.
Everything is all. And so print this off.
Yeah.
Throw it on your desk, print it off. I mean, don't break these rules. They're not made, they're very conservative rules, but if you're going to break the rules, you're going to pay the consequences.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. Well, hey, that's going to wrap it up for this episode.
Yeah.
Next time, I think we've got a guest coming up. Then we'll be reviewing some more deals. I think I always have fun reviewing deals with you, Charlie, and kind of going through, hey, does this make sense? And what do you think about that? And how do the numbers work? And kind of geek out on that stuff. So looking forward to doing that again.
I am. And this was great again. Once again, everybody out there, if you have any questions, hit us up. If you need some help and you're looking at some properties and you want just some help or some guidance, hit us up and we'll definitely get in contact with you, and we'll dig in for you if you want us to. So Absolutely. Reggie was great.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
Now, this show is brought to you by The Mortgage Cowboy. The mortgage industry has done an incredible job of making things more complicated than they need to be. Now, that complexity, it comes at a cost, and everyday people pay for it. Now, I built the Mortgage Cowboy brand around one simple idea: to give straight answers, no jargon, no runaround. Whether you're financing your first investment property or your fifth, my job is to make sure that you understand exactly what you qualify for and why. Whether it's DSCR loans, investment property financing, or creative solutions, my team and I, we have the ability to lend in almost every state. Check out reggieosborn.com or connect with me on all the social platforms, reggie.osborn. Now, as a reminder, the content of this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and represents the personal opinions of the host. It's not intended as financial advice or legal advice or investment advice, and should not be relied upon as such. Always consult with a licensed professional regarding your specific situation. Reggie Osborn, NMLS 1934542, Cornerstone First Financial, NMLS 173855, Equal Housing Lender. This is not a commitment to lend, not available in all states.